Welcome to Breaking Through the Contradictions. The goal here is to review some of the common contradictions we have lived and have had various conversations about and how it impacts various areas of a child's growth. We invited different parents, business owners, and friends to have a candid conversation on how some of the contradictions we live contribute and or creates larger barriers to supporting our youth. The views and opinions expressed by the guests, speakers, and participants in this context are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the organizers, hosts, or any affiliated individuals or organizations. We encourage open dialogue and diverse perspectives, but the individual viewpoints shared during this discussion are personal and should not be attributed to any collective entity involved. Ha!
I love that intro. It's very, very, very formal and serious. I love it.
Yes. I was like, look,
Like Tabitha.
I have a tendency to say things that other people are like, and they start to clutch their pearls. So let's be very clear. I am that bottle rocket you have to be leery of. So I better put those comments up first so that people understand that message does not, because I'll see Christine and she'll be like, and I'm like, okay, she's not ready to go there with that. So I have to fix that. So hello, ladies. How are you today?
Hello. Good. How are you
Doing
doing?
well.
We got an extra person today.
Yay. So excited to be here.
Excited to see
Thank
you
for having me. Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. This is fun. We made it, Christine.
Yes, we did.
We made it. Oh my gosh, I've had to go through this before. Don't worry, I'm gonna fix it. It's gonna get there. So, ladies, you actually just released your book, right?
Yes.
So tell everybody a little bit about your book, because I want to make sure that people know. Maybe I don't do that one. People know what you're doing. Come on, let's do it.
Do you want to go ahead and go? You can talk about it.
Sure, I'll jump right in.
All right.
So our book that just came out as of last evening, right before 8 o'clock-ish, was Bridging the Educational Gap Between Home and School. And Christine and I have been working on this project, for hours. I mean, I wish we had kept count of the number of hours we worked. We started the project at the end of January with ideas and then didn't start writing until the end of February. And just really just got into a mode where we discovered that we thought so much alike on issues and so many different things that needed to be done and said, that we could kind of put together to help parents that would also help teachers in the long run. So I'll wrap myself up there and let Christine jump in and share a little bit more.
So our why. So we were trying to help out literally bridging the gap between home and school, trying to figure out what needed to be done. So the first thing that we took a look at, is there a Venn diagram between home and school? We did not find anything. So that was how we ended up starting out. And then Kristen and I just started brainstorming. And honestly, we thought we did not have that much information. We thought it was going to be a very skimpy book until we started to do the table of contents. And then we were like, oh, there was quite a bit in that manual. We just thought it was just going to be, light and fluffy, but it is actually very substantial. And the way that it's written is very user-friendly. So it has a short paragraph or two explaining how to use the book, the next section, and it has checklists or worksheets to use for keeping track of like nightly schedules or morning schedules and incentives and that kind of thing for their children. So hopefully our hope is to build that bond between the parents and their child, and then also to build the bond between home and school.
This is really cool. I like the fact, first of all, congratulations. for releasing your first book. That's one of the things I wanted to say. I think it's extremely important that we highlight that that is something that you ladies decided to do because you noticed that there was a gap. There was something that was happening, and we realized that there was a challenge. And we said, okay, so how can we support that? What can we do differently in order to make a positive impact on families, children, and education? Because it all kind of starts at home, but it continues in school. So we do need to be mindful of that. So then that actually parlays us into the topic that we're having today, right? Which is, I want to give my child an educational head start per se, but it's not developmentally appropriate. And I knew that what you have put out for your book, it actually will help to frame a lot of the thoughts and feelings that some of the families may have around this. So the first thing I did put it out there, and it was like one of those things where it's you want your child to skip a grade. He's so smart. He or she is so smart. We want him to skip a grade. Okay. So we're a seventh grader and they're so smart. We want to skip one grade, maybe two. But here's the problem. They're still a 7-year-old brain, not academically, but they're still 7 years old in behaviors and chronologically, right? But then when you put him in a classroom, if he's 7, you skip him twice, so that means he's hanging around with 9 and 10-year-olds, right? And they are they're different. Like you see, the kids will change over summer. They're totally different. So is it developmentally appropriate to have that child skip those grades and put them in a position where they cannot relate or they cannot connect with their classmates? What are your thoughts? I am so interested in this.
I'll jump in real quick because I worked at the district level in a couple different states actually for special education. And we had a lot of different early intervention programs that we got kids in and qualified them through that angle, looking at developmentally delayed as the identification code through IDEA. And that allowed different districts set it up different ways. I know in Montgomery County, Maryland, they have what's called the PEP program, which was Parent and Educator Prep Program. I'm not sure why it was named that, but it is. Down in North Carolina, we have they call it K4, and it's really kindergarten for kids that just aren't really right there yet. They don't necessarily have to be 4 years old. They're just not ready yet for kindergarten. So it's like a pre-kindergarten. And those rooms tend to have very, very small class size with an assistant to really try and get those kids back on track to be able to be in the mainstream general ed setting. That's the goal of that kind of program. Of course, we have other ways of doing early intervention and sending, parents to doctors if they need things for other health impairments like physical therapy or occupational therapy and things along those lines, to get extra supports. And a lot of districts offer those supports to students as young as 3 years old.
Okay, so people can have their kids skip and they can have support from the school. Is that what you're saying? Ultimately, there is support out there for the students so that, or there's not?
Yeah, no. I'm saying at early intervention, the goal is to get them up to par. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I got you.
So Kristen's talking about like a global, like overall arching. So today I am all tongue tied. So I don't know what's going on. Anyways, so
drink more, smoke some weed. No, I'm sorry.
Drink more, some more water. Maybe that would be like my power. Maybe that's what I need to do. So anyway, what I have noticed, because I've taught pre-K, I've taught the special needs abilities preschool. I've had 3 children of my own. And what I've noticed is that children are better off to wait. So if in doubt, wait. So I was looking at my boys. I'm like, oh, phew, because I didn't have to make that decision because they were 5.5 when they started kindergarten. I'm like, oh, so if they're really young, I always suggest wait because their emotional development is, they need some extra time. I had one student, and I've been teaching now for 30 years, that I said, yes, She should move on. She could read, she could write, she knew how to do her math, she knew how to do addition. Like, her mind was just really sharp. She had a very socially emotionally attuned to others. She ended up going on and ended up skipping a grade and ended up doing fine. That was one student that I said, yes, you can do it. Overall, I recommend just to wait, because that social emotional piece is going to be catching up later.
So you just answered CJ's question, because so that's why I brought it up, to make sure.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's probably better for the children, the development of the child, for them to wait.
Yes.
You can feed that child. And like for my kids, I used to say, I always use my children as examples, because home is testing. Home is where you determine whether or not it's going to work or not work, what's going to happen. That's why I believe that we are, as the parent, is teacher number one in school. Well, we as a parent, we're parent number one at home. Parent number two is at school, right? So I told my children, just because they're teaching their curriculum based on what they need, that's for the masses. But if you are an outlier on the higher end of things, you can go to the teacher and say, okay, I've completed your work here, but now can you please give me something else, and kind of continue to fuel that? Because in that same position, you actually have them maintaining their developmental, they're hitting their developmental milestones inside of a classroom that's safe and appropriate for them in their age bracket. At the same time, you're feeding their brain, so you do not allow them to be delayed, or to not understand the cues, because my mom says that because I was raised by a single parent, and I remember she says she used to struggle all the time, because the boys would come around my brother and they would take him and tackle him and beat him up and just all these things, right? And she's like, "Don't hurt my baby," type of a thing, right? And then at some point in time, she realized that they were actually helping him to learn how to do and to navigate certain spaces. So having your kids in the same classroom with people of their same age will allow them to develop on cue, on par, right? At the same time, you're feeding their educational desire to know and learn more. So they can academically progress, but they don't have to. You don't have to leave behind their development. So I like this. Okay, so you only had one student. You suggest to push forward, Kristen? How many did
Yes.
you have?
I've never, because here's the deal. If teachers are differentiating the instruction, there is no need to socially promote them, because they can receive the above grade level instruction in a classroom. For example, I just did a training recently in Florida, and I was saying to this, teachers, you might say I teach second grade, but the truth is you teach the 18 to 25, however many kids you have that walk in your door, whether they're second grade ability or not. So you have to differentiate, especially elementary school teachers. And that helps set them up then, if you're able to differentiate appropriately, higher kids that need that push are getting it and are being excelled above and beyond, so that when they get to middle school and high school and there is tracking and honors and AP and all of that, they're ready to jump in without any problem. The problem is, what I'm discovering as a trainer, there's not enough teachers that know how to differentiate. So that's where we need to put more focus in our elementary teachers on teaching them not just how to do it, but why they need to. Because I think once they understand the why behind it, it makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to piggyback off of what Kristen said. So the student that I had recommended, that was 30 years ago, 28, something like that. And we're talking about at a small Catholic school. And that was a long time ago. And at that point, I don't even think that they were even talking about differentiated instruction at that time. So that's how far back it is. You can't just promote students anymore, because like Kristen said, you should be doing differentiated instruction. And so one of the things that Kristen and I were talking about, so parents would get an idea of what that looks like. because as a parent, you're not really sure what your child's education should look like. So we decided to develop a framework for our parenting class that would mimic what it would look like in a classroom setting. So our parenting class will have tier 1 instruction, which would be whole group instruction based off of the book. Tier 2 instruction would be, gosh, do I need more information on this? Do I have more questions? So then parents could go ahead and go into that section. Oh, I've already had this. I feel pretty comfortable with it. What else can you give me? They would go into that part of it. And then at the end, because even if you're in a classroom, every child in the classroom, even if they're not special ed, really should have an individualized kind of program where you know where that student is and you know how to push them up to the next level. So what we're going to be doing is offering that for parents and helping them with their child and how to get them to the next level and try to fill in those gaps for them at home as well.
Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to say that CJ actually mentioned the fact that she taught both of her kids, they were homeschooled, she actually is feeding into the conversation that you at home, parent number one, you can actually help your student stay developmentally engaged, but at the same time, you can actually fuel their academics. So she said by the time they reach a certain age, they can read and all these things, but now they're ahead of the other students, but they're still on part and like in position for their developmental milestones to be met. Because, walking up to a girl and punching her, boom, and as a signal as I like you is not appropriate at the age of 12. But at the age of 5, that's the way you get it, right? But at age of 12, somebody's going to slap you back, and they're not going to want to like you like that. Yeah. And those are those developmental milestones that I think all people have a tendency to kind of get into. So I thank you. Thank you, CJ. So, I mean, I think that's really, really good. I think it's amazing. She also thinks you guys are so cute. So it's always good. I want people to get a copy. I think that the teachers would benefit from being able to have 2 very well-seasoned teachers being able to show what they have learned and how they can be supported in this way, because this is a subject that may not be as common now since the pandemic, but it's still part of it, because a lot of there are some really, really smart kiddos out there, but I always worry about the Doogie Howser effect, where these 14-year-olds graduate with PhDs. Now explain to me, what adult what adult is going to be like, yes, please let that 14-year-old operate on me? And wait a second. No. The labor law said that they can't go to work until 16 years of age. Hang on. One other thing. Wait. 16, but then there is a certain amount of time that they can work. So they can't even work full-time jobs. So what did we just do? We accelerated all of their learning, saddled them with all of the adult crap that we have to deal with so they have 18 years to be kids. But on the opposite side of 18 years is at least 50 additional years that they have to work and be enslaved to systems that are going to get them paid. So help me understand. First, what adult is going to let a 14-year-old dig in your mouth, cut you open, and do cardiac anything? We're just not, they're like, little boy, little girl, go sit down somewhere and go find an adult and send them to me, right? That's what's going to happen. So we're skipping all these things because they're academically advanced, but then we're setting them up for a failure that none of us truly understand what that looks like.
Right. That is very true. Because they're not able to process it. Could you imagine, like, underneath stress and a 14-year-old under stress, and their brain cannot process that information, and just that alone? Yeah, that would be very, very scary.
They don't your prefrontal cortex isn't developed.
Nope, not at all.
It's ironic. I was listening to a podcast earlier today that was talking about social promotion. And it was high school teachers in particular who have left education because they're fed up of things like social promotion and pushing kids through. And I worked in an alternative high school for a year as a special education self-contained behavior teacher. So my circumstances were a little different than a general education teacher, but I overheard a conversation one day during bus dismissal about a very tough kid. I'll just leave it at that. Very difficult child. She developmentally was probably about 12, but she was 16 in age. She was failing her math class. And the behavior specialist at the time said to the math teacher, well, if you fail her, you got to teach her again next year. Consider that. And it was like, oh my gosh, did I really just hear that?
Yeah.
But it happens everywhere. Or teachers will put grades in as a 55 and the child failed. And then suddenly the report card comes and it says 65 because the administrators have gone behind and cleaned it up, or, whatever it might be. North Carolina's doing pay per performance for evaluation down here. It's killing teachers. Top 25% of teachers make more money based on their performance in the classroom and their kids' test scores. Tell me how, as a special education teacher, you can evaluate me next to a teacher who has all the gifted kids.
You can't.
Yeah, you can't.
That's what they're doing now. They're setting teachers up for failure too.
And they're
as an
doing that
example
more
of
than
what I'm
just.
saying, this is what I've been
It's
saying. The
unfortunately more than
metrics
just
is
here.
broken. The metrics that they are measuring against is broken. 37% not being able to read on grade level means that you are measuring the wrong things. And now, to add insult to injury, you are now putting teachers in a position to actually manipulate the metrics in a way that will financially be conducive for them, but harm the child later in life.
Or on the flip side, the teacher makes themselves so sick over it all that their physical and mental health falls apart because they're trying so hard to be the best. I watched that happen to several.
And what I've also found interesting, because I am kind of a data nerd and I like data. So I keep track of benchmarks. You too. So I keep track of benchmarks. One thing I can tell you about benchmarks is that they continue to get harder and harder and harder. So where before they would have been passing those benchmarks, they are no longer passing those benchmarks. They are now struggling, where before they would have been very successful. We have to also watch for biases when we look at the test, and is it an accurate test for all children, or are we setting up certain people up for failure when we say that? And then I'm going to go a step further. Are we setting it up for failure to benefit the overall education system in the direction that we want to see, not like educators, but as the government, that what they want to push their own initiatives. So those are some of the things that we have to, as citizens, make sure that we're understanding everything. And it goes back to No Child Left Behind.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yep. Christine, you said that very well. And that's one of the things. I've already left the classroom. And the reason that I left the classroom was because I wanted to fix it from the outside, because I knew there was no way I could stay in education and make the change. And it has got to be, it takes a village. That saying is a real thing for a reason. My very first year teaching back in, I won't even tell you what year, a parent did say to me, if my kid can't read, then that sounds like a school problem, not a parent problem. And I was like, no, that's not the way this works. Because her behavior is so bad that now she's jumping out windows because she can't read and she's in 5th grade.
And then let's take a look at it a step further from the parenting side. So is it a school thing, or is it a societal thing, or a parent thing? Because ultimately the parent's going to end up with that child in their home. So if they just push it off onto school and they're like, it's just a school thing, they're going to be at home. So do we want our children staying at home? And that's why it's really important that we take an active role in our children's education. We cannot be bystanders. We can't say, ship them off to school and say it is a school's responsibility. When I went to school, there was a model: home, school, and child. There was a triangle. Now
Yep.
all the fingers are pointing to educators.
And that's
the
on
way the
us.
world has gone, we have got to have more going the other direction because we need more mental health supports and
Yes.
social emotional supports in schools now more than ever, you know,
Mhm.
especially post-pandemic.
Yes.
This is true. But I do. So it's a response. It's a collective responsibility. It is not one person over another. It's not one group over another. That's why you will continue to hear me say parent number one is home. Parent number two is school. And your bonus parent is a community. Because at the end
Yes.
of the day, it comes down to we all have to figure out how to parent this person, this child. They may start as a little in one place, but they will end up as an adult in another. And if we don't get a handle on this now, then what we're dealing with today, them snatching purses, having zero sense or understanding of life, being able to go out there and successfully land a job that's going to help them to pay their bills, that is 100% because we are not parenting as a collective to help that person be successful in their life. And so as we're progressing these children through, first of all, No Child Left Behind, that's some BS.
Mhm.
Your
Yeah.
child is
It's
not making the grade. Do not push them forward. No Child Left Behind does not give you the right to fail children just because of your personal bias. It doesn't work. But if your child is smart enough and can academically receive the information, feed it to them. But that does not mean you need to push them through, because that doesn't work. And so I just think, but I also want to make it very clear, home, if you don't do your job, if you don't do your foundational work, teachers can't do theirs.
Mhm.
Well, it's like the 11th grade English teacher who says, how am I supposed to be held responsible for kids passing 11th grade English when they come to me and they're illiterate or maybe reading at 8th grade level? You know, they've been failed for 10 years prior to that, but the 11th grade teacher is going to have the consequences. It just does not make sense the way that we evaluate educators and we evaluate, you know, students in general. I mean, you know, thinking about testing, and when I used to be a teacher and watching these kids and how nervous they would get, you know, even the kids that didn't care would get nervous because it was so big and everybody made it into such a big deal. And I hated watching kids get physically and emotionally upset over, you know, having to take tests like that and then having to retake it if they didn't pass. That's North Carolina's thing. Oh, you didn't pass. You have to retake it before the year's end, and your teacher's going to try in 2 weeks teach you everything that she can to get you to pass it that second time. It makes no sense.
It's also happening in kindergarten. So we're talking about developmentally. Yes, I test in kindergarten. They have project-based learning. My children do research projects. I've already done one research project. It's pushing down the curriculum, and it's pretty rigorous. People come into my classroom, they take a look around my classroom to see if I have certain things up, if I have my centers up and going just right, making sure that everybody is engaged. So I get reports out how my class is doing. I know exactly where I am. They have data benchmarks on my children already. There's testing anxiety in kindergarten. And that's what we're talking about, being developmentally appropriate. Are we setting our children up to be mentally healthy? Kindergartners should be socially, emotionally healthy, and that should be our very first. That's our foundation. We're backwards, and it's hurting our children.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more on that, Christine. Kids,
Mhm.
especially, you know, we're looking at kindergarten. I just finished working in middle school when I, you know, ended my public education career. And I was at the time working as a social emotional learning coordinator. My position was changed and they ended up adding a math coordinator instead because the math scores were so low. And I said, well, if, you know, with all due respect, if your teachers knew how to have relationships with students through the SEL curriculum, then maybe they wouldn't need new math, you know, math coach to come in. And the bottom line is the principal said, well, I'm told that 60% of my 8th graders have to take 9th grade math. So that's the way it is. So it's not even the principal's control then.
Right. No, it is not.
I mean, he's
No,
being
that's what we
told
think.
this is
Yep.
what you got to do.
Yep.
This is why I said this is this is the reason why there are two programs that I run, Save Our Kids and Breaking Through the Contradictions. Because at the end of the day, the numbers are telling us that something is going wrong. Our tax dollars continue to pay and keep people in position that don't allow for children to be safe, secure, and educated. So when I heard a PhD, she said, I had to do something different. Why did I have to do something different? I'm going to let us run for a little bit longer. Why did you have to do something different? Because a 17-year-old walked into my tutoring office and the mom says, my kid cannot read. Hang on. How do we make it to 17 all this way and he cannot read? So he can't read an application. He can't fill out any forms. He can't do those things that are bare minimum and basic. So she had to change. So she said, and I love this lady. I think she's amazing. She said, so I said, okay, I need to figure out where the problem is. So root cause it. She said, the school is failing. So I'm going to go and get a job in the school. So she gets a job in the school and she says, the teachers are failing. So she goes and gets a job as a teacher and she goes through the process and she says, it's not the teachers. Mm-hmm. So then she went into administration. She said, administration is failing. And she went in there and I think she figured out it's not necessarily administration. However, they're the ones that are pushing it downhill. Mm-hmm. And so again, I cannot impress upon enough that we hold the purse strings. We get to choose when they come and bond us every so many years. Hey, we need more money to keep our schools alive. Hey, we need more money for this program. Hey, we need more money for this. Here's the thing. If the students that you push through are not doing what they're supposed to do, and my expectations for their outcome does not work, they do not match, you should not get paid again. You go to the government and you have them shell out money to help support you. But for my tax dollars, I need results, because that means that 14-year-old that you're claiming that we don't push them all the way through and they're going to try to cut on me. First of all, I'm not going to be doing that. They don't have, their boyfriend fall apart, they falling apart around me and my organs are open because they don't know how to deal with certain situations. We have to do better. She found out that it wasn't where she thought it was. And I didn't think it was all teachers. I already know the data tells you where the problem lies. I cannot tell Christine, I cannot tell Kristen, I cannot tell Nicole, I cannot tell Sia, I cannot tell CJ how to do a job that I have not done in a long period of time. And that I do not understand what you have to overcome first in the first 15 minutes of class before you can even get into instruction. So I don't think that that's appropriate. It's not okay. I'm not going to tell you, Christine, you got 25 students in your classroom and I'm only banking on 15 of them to make it out because the rest of them I can pick up. They can fall through the cracks and I can pick them up and put them into a different system that will financially improve my life, not theirs, right? I'm not willing to do that. I want you to say, what can I do? I want to ask teachers and parents and things like that. What can I do to support you in helping your child be part of the 90% that make it instead of the 60% that make it? That's all I want to know. So what can parents do to help overcome this? I know we talked about developmental challenges. One, we already know, don't move them forward. Feed them academically, keep them developmentally where they belong. But where are some of the other things that parents can do that can help with all of this? Because we're at the mercy of people who are not in classrooms.
So I have a couple, just from like a parent point of view. So I was a foster parent. I adopted. And my son came to me delayed, and I knew he was going to be delayed. And if there's an entrance test and you know that they're going to be delayed, don't start trying to push them up and trying to get them caught up at that point. I went ahead and had the test done early. So then that way, then I could start pushing and then start really, really working with them. I had the whole summer. He could go to all day kindergarten. It was between half day and all day kindergarten. He ended up with a learning disability. I saw that he was having troubles with his reading, and I collected data. I collected data, and I just said I was a huge data nerd. And I said that I noticed that he had an auditory, he has retrieval issues because he could retrieve like 21 out of 26. So keeping data for your child, getting them outside help. So we had him going to a tutor. I could have tutored him, but who wants to be tutored by mom? Evidently, there's is like a little secret. He thought I wasn't very bright because I had to repeat kindergarten. So he could not learn from me anyway. So that was already shot. So I could never tutor this child. So anyways, so then like my oldest one, he could read. They said he was reading really high. I listened to him read. I'm like, oh, this child cannot read that high. So I had him doing reading to his brother, which got up his fluency. So he just read real easy books over and over and over again, got up the confidence. And guess where he was starting the school year? He was reading at a P because he could now read fluently. And just, those small steps every single day. They read for a half an hour, drop everything and read. I read with them, and we all read. So those are just some suggestions. Do you have anything, Kristen?
Take the screens out of their hands.
Yes.
Put the screens down, interact with them,
Yes.
use real life experience so that they understand the why behind the learning. The one thing I used to hear, no matter what grade I taught, no matter what the ability level was, why do I need to know this? Why do I need to know this? If they understand the why, then that takes that part out, and there's more motivation than to learn what you're doing. For example, I've got a student that I'm helping right now through my advocacy business that is in 7th grade and can't count coins. He can't read. He has not been in the right programs, and that's why I'm now involved as an advocate to help get him back where he needs to be, because the system has just kind of continued to pass him through. Unfortunately, the family has had to move around a bit, so that's had impact. But this is a child that's been failed by the system. And now, he's a 7th grader that's now sitting in a classroom that's completely and totally developmentally inappropriate for him, not getting the help he should be getting. And that's what I see way too much.
Yeah. I like what Nicole says. We must invest in our kids now, because they will become a drain on the economy later, and when they can't get themselves employed. And that's one of the things that I think that is very important, because like I said before, a lot of no, I don't hear any of that, but a lot of what happens a lot of times is people talk about the people who are running in there, running in the stores and stealing all those things. And people are like, this is so bad. I hate this. And this is terrible. Shame on them. And I said, ask yourself why they're doing that. If you think they're doing that for a come up, you are sadly mistaken. People can't feed their families anymore. People are struggling financially in every way known to man. And you believe that these people are running up in a jewelry store or whatever store and trying to take baskets of food out or different items out, and you think that's on a come up. That's not on a come up. That's them struggling to try to make ends meet. And that actually is a direct reflection of the education that they're not receiving, and the coping mechanisms that they do not have in order to be successful. One of the things I used to do with my children is we used to travel all the time, because I'm a road warrior, and if I have a vehicle, I will drive. But I couldn't stop the education of the child. I needed to make sure that they were educated. I needed to make sure they could read. But that one, he didn't want to read nothing. Throw the book at you. He was like, and I don't want to do this. So I would put them in the car, and they would hit this one place, and I would say, and they would read their books. I was like, you have to read. I would have them read one book on grade level, and then they can choose their fun books, whatever those were going to be. But you had to read 2 on grade, 1 not on grade. Doesn't matter. So when we were driving, I would have them, when they would hit a place where they couldn't pronounce a word, I would have them spell it, because I'm driving. I can't be, reading and driving. That don't work. So I would have them spell the word. And what was happening was I was teaching them as we were moving, so they recognize that life won't stop just while you're trying to learn. So you're able to keep doing that. But it actually helped them to learn how to spell One, other benefit, learn how to read. And then on top of that, they were able to learn how to work their way through that word. So I was doing things to ensure that they were ready to read, and they were reading on grade level. Now, the one that kept throwing books back at me, no longer threw books at me. He went into the store and he went and found, because we spent every Saturday, it seemed like, in Barnes and Noble. I spent a lot of money in Barnes and Nobles. I bought a membership and everything. It was horrible. People are like, and I even got another one that says, hey, can you take me to the bookstore? Why me? Because you spend a lot of time at the bookstore, right? But having them learn that what he does now is you can see he's always reading. So it gave them a love for reading. So it's truly, truly a part. So parents, please make it a point to invest in your child, to go to the bookstore,
Public library too. Yes.
Library, do what you need to do.
And modeling it, the more
Yes.
you do things and emulate things, the more they, more they want to emulate what they see from you.
Yes,
So that's a huge thing.
I'm so glad you ladies came to join us. Well, first of all, Kristen, you joined us today. Me and Christine be sitting there yakking.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you letting me be the third wheel and jump in. The timing worked out beautifully.
You're not a third wheel. It was wonderful. It was a lot of fun.
Not.
Well, we were the original, three amigos that were on a show together starting last January.
Yes, right.
Why not keep doing it? That's like, we can keep doing this, because here's the thing. Yep. You are outside the gates. She's inside the gates, and I'm just a recluse. Right.
There you go.
I'm gonna say it. You ain't afraid to do it. I ain't afraid to tell it. How about that? So I think we can keep this going. If you want to come on back. We're gonna go ahead and please. I'm gonna talk to somebody about screen time. We're gonna bring somebody on about screen time, because you mentioned screen time, and that's one of the things. Holidays is coming up, and instead of you handing over your phone or a laptop or a tablet, how about handing them a book? How about figuring out that part?
Right. Or an experience. That's something I've decided to do with my niece and nephew. I don't buy them material things. I buy them things we can go do together, so that those memories are made.
Experiences.
And they love it. They think it's the coolest thing in the world.
Yes. So this is good. All right. So ladies, because you have a book out, I want to give you an opportunity to go ahead and promote that book one more time before we go ahead and close out. But I also want to thank all those people who made it their business to share this time with us. So we were able to hear from Shay and Nicole and CJ, and a few, Raquel. We had a few people. Hey, family. All right now.
Familia.
La familia, yes. So go ahead, Kristen, because we're gonna go. You're gonna go ahead, promote. Tell them where to buy the book. Sure. Tell them what it's about and who should buy it.
Everybody should buy it. It is a book that is geared towards parents and teachers. The idea is that, again, the name is Bridging the Educational Gap Between Home and School. You can find it on Amazon, and one of the things that it really allows for is that interactive working with students. So it explains at the beginning the why we feel it's important, but then it shows the parent how to do something, why to do it, and then here's how you put it into action. So that's something that I think will be very helpful. I know I've got a lot of friends who are trying to get their schools to purchase it for the lower grades and things like that, because it just would really help guide parents. There's pages in there to help you if you have problems with behavior, if you're having problems with medical needs and you need to go see specialists. It's all in that one comprehensive place to be able to keep all of that information together. You don't have to worry about where is that, where is this. It's in one place together. So that's one thing that's great about it. So highly, highly recommend it. Christine and I worked hard, and it turned into just a beautiful masterpiece that I'm very proud of.
And Nicole did a wonderful job on the front cover too, and the back cover. So
look at her, Nicole. She's doing things right now. I'm like, all right now, come on, girl, come on through.
Obsessed.
Nicole, anybody need some graphics? Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
contact Nicole because she got this hands
Mhm.
down.
Yes.
So this is good. So Christine,
You almost had it. Are
I
you sure
did.
you don't have all of this
Christine,
on?
look, I added another one because now I got a Christina, and I was like, y'all are trying to kill me with this name. I cannot. You talk about being tongue tied. It's terrible.
I love it.
Kristen, go ahead and Christine, go ahead and talk to them a little bit about what's going on with you, because I think I'm going to purchase the book because I feel like there are families that would benefit from this, and I do. Does it come with a workbook is another question that I want to make sure that we answer, because and is there a way for people to reach out to you? How should they connect with you ladies so that you can go, so that they can have further conversations? Because as a Kristen, as a parent advocate, you have a viewpoint or perspective that can help and support others. Kristen, you are still in the gates, so all you can kind of do is help them understand what the curriculum could potentially look like and some of the things that have been helpful for you. But share with people how to find you and who you want to talk to.
Okay. So I don't know if I can speak for Kristen too, but they can reach us definitely on LinkedIn. We're both very active on LinkedIn. And then I have a business page, and I'm just getting started on those on Facebook as well as on LinkedIn. And I should have a website out fairly soon. So
Nice.
it is
Congratulations.
did you want us to answer about the workbook part of it?
Yes, please.
So it's kind of like there's an explanation, and then there's the doing part. So it's a series of like checklist of charts of like you can fill in for doctor notes, and that you could fill in too, Kristen, because I know I'm not going to get everything that we have. Fill in for doctor notes so you could take it to the doctor's office for appointments. There's an ABC chart, which is what happens first before the behavior, then what happens after the behavior. So you can start to chart and to see patterns. And that's the data collection part. That we will be helping parents if they take that parenting class. We will help them go through that and then come up with a plan, if need be, for behaviors and how to have their child be more successful in school and take them to the next level. Do you want to jump in and add to that?
Sure. I think one of the things I love about this is that it can be used for kids that don't have any behavioral needs too. It can be used as a positive reinforcement progress. You can have them do goal setting from a very young age of what are things I need to work on? Where do I need to improve? And have them working on that from a very young age so that they learn how to, figure out how to fix things that aren't going well. But also, at the same time, being able to have those kids have that part in their education too. I think that's a big piece of it. We forget that a lot of times we sit at the table and talk about them, but a lot of times they can talk and participate too, even at a young age, in conversations that, involve their education. So when things aren't working right, teaching parents how to talk to their child about what's going on. Don't be afraid to just ask. Every behavior is a form of communication of some kind. So even if it's a negative behavior, there is a reason for that behavior. Even if you say, oh, they're just trying to get attention, there is a reason for that. So keeping that in mind in the process. But back to also with the workbook, at the very end of the book, we have a whole cutout section that you can cut out with reproducibles for all of the different types of charts in there. And we've given you example charts so that you know how to fill them in as you're going through.
Good. Well, this is amazing. I'm so glad that we were able to do this today. So if anybody is watching, go ahead. We see the link on the page. You can go ahead and get one from the US side. And we also have one for Canada. Thank you very much, Nicole, for helping
Thank you.
with the links and everything like that, girl. Because we normally just go up here and just start chatting. So I'm thankful very much for you ladies joining me today. It's been fun, and it's been exactly what we needed because it's definitely one of those things where if we know better, we can do better. But first, we have to at least acknowledge that there's something that we do need to change. So I do appreciate
Absolutely.
everything that you have. I don't know how to get that off. Oh yeah, do it. It's been very good talking to everybody. And until next time, as we say, words are power. Remember to use them wisely. Everybody have a great one. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate the support and look forward to you visiting us again next week. Same time, same place. Until then, words are power. Please remember to use them wisely. If you have an interest in discussing a contradiction or would like to be on our live show, please let us know and send us a direct message.